I'm out my goat pen. I'm trying to collect some fecal samples today. We're going to be doing some fecal testing on our own for the first time. So I'm out here trying to get the goats to poop, which they seem to poop a lot when you don't want them to, and then when you want them to poop, nobody wants to poop for you. So my husband's up front in the boys' pen. We have one buck and one wether up in that pen, and then I got 3 does back here that I'm waiting. I think we were paying about $30-some for 3 goats, $10 a piece to do a fecal testing, plus we had to pay to have it shipped off. And we like to overnight it just to make sure it was getting there on time. So that was probably about $30 in itself just to get it shipped. So this is going to pay for itself pretty quickly. So I want to test my goats periodically just to make sure that they don't have a worm load that is getting too high. They're not showing any signs of it, but they haven't been tested in quite a while, so we're going to go ahead and test the does again. And our boys we need to test because they're looking a little on the thin side, and we just want to make sure that they're okay. It isn't uncommon for goats to have a worm load, but it's if they're handling it okay. And if they start showing signs of, having problems, that's when you have to worry, like if they're losing weight, just looking sickly, that's when you got something to worry about and you need to get it taken care of. You're trying to get in my pocket. Is there something in there that you want? Huh? What you doing? Alright, I got my goat poop. And I think my husband got one sample, so we just got one goat left to get a sample from. We're going to go ahead and take the samples that we've got, and we're going to go ahead and start testing them. Alright, I'm making a flotation solution. To do the goat fecal testing, you have to have this flotation solution to put the fecal matter in so that the worm eggs will float to the top to make them more easily seen. So what I've got is just some Epsom salt. I'm going to put some Epsom salt in the bottom of this jar. This takes 24 hours to make, so we're just going to put some Epsom salt in the jar, and we're going to fill the jar about 2/3 full with water. Okay, I'm going to stir that up until all the Epsom salt has dissolved. Actually, probably better to stir it, to shake it. So I'm going to put the top on and just I want all those little particles to dissolve in there. And then over a 24-hour period of time, I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to come by every little bit, shake it up. If all those particles have dissolved, then I'll add a little more Epsom salt. I'll shake it up till they all dissolve. Do that for 24 hours until the water will not dissolve any more Epsom salt. And then once the water won't dissolve any more Epsom salt, we have our flotation solution, and then we can pour the water off and separate the Epsom salt from the water that's remaining in the jar. Supplies that you'll need to do this: you're going to need some Epsom salt, you're going to need a jar with a sealable lid, you'll need some test tubes, and I've put 5 test tubes in here because that's how many goats we have. You'll need something to hold your test tubes, and we just made this out of egg carton, something to hold them upright. You're going to need some beakers or measuring cups that hold, one that holds at least 25 milliliters, and then you're going to need 2 that holds at least 50 milliliters. You're going to need a strainer, cover slips. You're going to need slides for your microscope, and of course you're going to need a microscope. You're also going to need craft sticks to mix everything up with. You'll need a pen and paper to mark down how many worm eggs that you see as you're looking. Alright, so this is my first time doing goat fecal samples. So I've got my directions that I printed off from Fiasco Farm. She's got it all laid out how you should do all the supplies you need and how you should do everything. So I printed that off and I've got it here with me to refer to. We've got our poop from Bo. He's our weather. And what we're going to do is we're going to, it says you can weigh out 3 grams, which equals about 1/2 to 3/4 of a teaspoon. So I'm going to put a few pellets in this beaker. Alright, so I got my poop pellets in my cup, and what I'm going to do is add 25 milliliters of our flotation solution, and this is the solution that we mixed up the other day where we added so much salt that it couldn't hold anymore. And what that's going to do is let the worm eggs float to the top. So we're going to slowly add our 25 milliliters of flotation solution to this. And after we get that in there, we've got a popsicle stick that we're slowly stirring it with. And I'm using it to kind of break them up because you want it all broken up and mashed up. Once you get this all mixed up, you have to let it sit for 2 minutes. Alright, so our next step is to take the poop that we've put in the flotation solution and we're going to strain it into another 50 milliliter beaker. Alright, so we've strained it into this other beaker. You want to try to get as much of the liquid out as possible. And then once you've got it all strained out into that cup, you're going to let the strained liquid sit for another 2 minutes. Our strained solution is set for 2 minutes. So our next step is to pour the strained solution into a test tube. And we want this to overflow. Alright, take a cover slip and you're going to sit it on top so that the solution touches the cover slip, and you're going to let that sit. You're going to let that sit for 15 to 20 minutes. Alright, so I'm taking my cover slip off. I'm going to place it wet side down on the slide. All the worm eggs are supposed to float to the top in that 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm going to put it in my microscope, and you start out at 10 times zoom. And then if you see a worm egg, you can increase your zoom, but you start out at 10. So we're going to start at this corner, and we're just going to work our way around. This slide right here shows the difference between an air bubble and a parasite egg. Now you'll see a lot of air bubbles, and at first you may mistake them for worm eggs, but the way to differentiate is an air bubble is really dark around the rim and the center is a bright white, so you'll know that that's an air bubble. You'll see a lot of those on your slide, so once you see an air bubble, you'll know what it looks like and you won't mistake it for a worm egg. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helps anyone who may be wanting to do their own fecal testing on their herd. I know it's going to help us be able to test more frequently and ensure that our herd stays in the best health possible. If you haven't already, please go down and hit subscribe and like this video. It'll really help us out a lot.